On Wednesday last week, over 20 people drowned on Lake Victoria after a boat in which they were traveling capsized. So far, 14 have been recovered as the search progresses. Most of these accidents have been blamed on overloading and failure by various stakeholders to ensure that passengers wear life jackets. The enforcement of such measures to respond to accidents, according to the commandant of the Marine Police Unit, is hampered by lack of resources.
The lake is so vast, the waters are so vast that we cannot cover all of them. That in itself becomes a challenge. You would imagine policing the entire Victoria, the Lake Choga, River Nile, Lake Wamara, Lake Bunyonyi. So that constitutes a very, very big challenge for us while we're executing our duties.
He says Uganda has over 300 landing sites, but police has only 30 marine detaches.
The Karangara waters have about 90. And overall, they are about 300. And yet we have only 30 detaches. That means we are only on 30 islands. The other ones are unmanned. So I should say the capacity may not be sufficient to be all over the islands as we are supposed to be.
He says the only speedboat being used by the unit is obsolete, and since they do not have the modern technologies like global position systems that are used in search and rescue missions.
They are supposed to have lights, they are supposed to have firefighting equipment. Most of our boats are lacking in these equipments.
He says the officers attached to the unit live in unpleasant houses which disorients them.
Most of our detaches, the accommodation is not sufficient, and perhaps at times even we accommodate them in a makeshift. So this also hampers the welfare of the personnel. Bamunova
says to effectively cover Uganda's water bodies, each landing site should have a marine unit detached to oversee the worthiness of the boats. According to Bamunova, modern equipment used in rescue missions is not available in the country.
I could call them the jet skis. Kind of, they are like motorcycle equipment where you can be able to move on the water in a shallow end and rescue someone who has drowned. Those ones are lacking. If we had them, I think they would constitute a very big component on our part.
He says there is need to carry out a fresh survey of water routes on Uganda's water bodies, since the data from the survey that was carried out in the 90s is no longer accurate and reliable.
The route charts that we have now were done in the 1900s. And now you can imagine how many years now our vessels are still using the same routes. So when there is the presence of the relevant roads, then it becomes easy for us to regulate the water transport.
Kamana Ivan Walunyolo, NTV, in Entebbe.